Welcome to Lead Smarter, the podcast where you'll hear powerful, no-nonsense conversations about leadership with today's top experts and real-world leaders like yourself. Get the inside strategies, insights, and secrets they've learned on the journey to lead smarter. Let's dive in. Most leaders who build something from the ground up reach a point where the instincts that got them there start to get in the way. The technology they bet on shifts underneath them, and the path can require they take a leap of faith before others are ready to follow. My guest today has lived that arc more than once. Brian Anderson is the CEO and co-founder of Augusto Digital, where he helps organizations harness AI, custom software, and rapid innovation to drive real, measurable business outcomes. With over 2 decades of experience in software, product development, and entrepreneurship, Brian leads Augusto's AI solutions and works directly with leadership teams to identify low-friction, high ROI use cases through Augusto's digital PACE framework. I've had the privilege of working with Brian as a client, and what stands out is how openly he talks about the parts of the journey most leaders skip over, like the fear of changing direction, the discomfort of being first in your company to go all in on something new, or having to face the challenge of being honest with yourself about when it's time to lead by example and when it's time to step back. In this conversation, Brian opens up about his entry into entrepreneurship, what getting fired actually taught him, why he bet on AI before his team was ready, and why he made Augusto the first client of its own services. If you're a leader who feels the pull to evolve faster than the people around you, you'll appreciate this journey. Welcome to Lead Smarter. Here's my chat with Brian. Hey, Brian, thank you for joining me again here on another conversation with you on the Lead Smarter podcast. I've really enjoyed the first few conversations we've had getting to know you. I've enjoyed having you as a client and learning a little bit about your entrepreneurship journey, even from the beginning, which I don't really get from a lot of guests. And I know that while I might talk about what you do now, if you wouldn't mind, I'd actually really love if you could just give a little bit of insights about what your entry into entrepreneurship was like before we start to dive into some of the questions on how you manage leadership now that you've made that transition, you're here managing your company.
Yeah, thanks. It's great to be with you. Entrepreneurship has been in my blood for a long time. I just didn't realize it. My parents, my mom was a school teacher. My dad worked for the county and they were not entrepreneurs. So I was kind of an odd duck a little bit because I had this entrepreneurial bug, but they kind of taught me to go to school, get a good job, and be an employee, be a good employee. And so I did those things, and I kind of realized I wasn't happy over time, and I had this ambition and this drive to do more. And so I just kept inventing things and creating things and starting businesses on the side. And then eventually I got to the point where I had enough experience and confidence, and I just decided to go all in and start my own business and grow it and run it. And I've been doing that for the last 10 years now, without being an employee.
And if I understand correctly, remember when we were talking about I believe you mentioned even getting fired it was both a painful but a necessary experience for you, and it kind of maybe gave you that push. Could you talk a little bit about what that transition was like? I know you were mentioning you really kind of dove in deep. You were really doing some studying and learning about yourself maybe through this transition. What was that like? And how did that step that maybe wasn't even your choice at the time kind of really push you and make you take that leap?
Well, I could tell you, like, getting fired definitely is kind of a bad tasting pill, but I wish I'd have got fired a lot earlier. I was just a good employee. I created a lot of value and money for the people I was working for. And so even though I was disruptive and a pain, like, they kept me around for a long time. I think that journey to like truly becoming an entrepreneur was gradual for me. I had it in my blood, but I was kind of wired conservatively and wired like with the employee mindset because I was brought up that way. And, I got to a point where I was doing these side businesses on the side, and I was enjoying them. And I actually grew one of them that we just relaunched. It's payit2.com. And you'll have to check that out. But it's a payment platform similar to GoFundMe. It's kind of like Eventbrite and GoFundMe blended together. And I ended up selling that company to one of the companies I worked for. And then like they invested in it and we worked on it. So I just kept like doing all these entrepreneur kind of things that were crossing over. And I eventually got to the point where it's like I couldn't make any of them really work because I wasn't focused enough. And but I enjoyed the whole creative process. I enjoyed the entrepreneurial process, and I realized that's what I wanted to do. But I was getting paid a lot of money, and I was like making enough where I had some golden handcuffs on. I was living in a cottage that we had bought up on a lake in northern Michigan, and I was enjoying that lifestyle and stuff. And so I had a lot of fear. I didn't want to change, and but I didn't like where I was going and what I was doing at the time. And they I was good at doing business development work. So I did a deal with them to go start the Detroit office for building custom software applications, like a consulting practice over there. And so I was driving over there every single week. And I did that for like a year and a half. And I met a lot of great people, and I hired some people over there and stuff. And but every time that that I was driving over there, like the first time I remember driving over, I was listening to like sports radio. And I said to myself after the first trip, I said, I'm never going to listen to sports radio again because it has no value to my brain. And if I want to change, my wife was like gave me a book about entrepreneurship, and I read that, and that like set my brain on fire. I should have done it many years prior. And during those car rides back and forth to Detroit, I listened to like an audiobook every single time I was driving across the state, because I lived in West Michigan and Detroit's all the way on the other side of the state. So I had 2.5 hours of uninterrupted time for the most part to listen to audiobooks. So I consumed like 100 books. And I feel like I started out with like self-improvement, entrepreneurship, investing, real estate investing. And man, those books were like really great for me. I was annoying a lot of my friends because I was just like spewing all this like new knowledge I was gaining. And it got me very disruptive at work. So like that was probably like the catalyst that ultimately got me fired, as I got to the point where I was just like educated and I was frustrated and I was disruptive. They had to do what they had to do. It was a good choice on their part, I think, but it also freed me. And at that stage of my life, I had said to my wife, I'm not going back. I'm not going to go get a job and go work for somebody else. I'm going to go do this entrepreneurial journey. And I had worked out a severance plan with these folks, and I had some money in the bank that I had some confidence. And then I went on that journey, and I could tell you there was like there's these moments, there's this diagram I always see. It's like everyone's so excited at the top of the valley. And then there's like, you go down the valley and there's this bridge, and then there's the pit of despair. I landed square in the pit of despair a few times and pulled myself out of that swamp and crossed the bridge. But it's not a journey for the faint of heart, but when you do it and you actually persevere through it, like there's a lot of rewards.
Well, and there's a lot of lessons in that. And I'm curious, like you obviously went through that journey yourself. You watched yourself transition from good employee to I'm struggling to fit in this space because I feel like I'm educated on what my values are. After going through that and building a company, how do you create room for people that might be experiencing the same things in your company?
I encourage people to be entrepreneurial, and I think we've set up Augusto in a way where I think people can be very entrepreneurial, and they get tons of opportunities, they get tons of autonomy, and we're open to ideas, we're open to change, and I definitely feel like it's a different kind of place than where I had come from,
Right.
We work with a lot of contractors. We're very strategic about how we engage people and how we incentivize people so that our interests are aligned. But we encourage people to be creative and to be entrepreneurial. And if they want to be an entrepreneur and they want to be a contractor, that's totally fine with us. If they want to be an employee and they're bought into our mission and they want to help us achieve that, then that's totally cool too.
Do you feel like the mission that you've set up for your company is designed with your own experiences in mind from having gone through that process, and now you're like, this is the environment I want to create for the younger version of me or the people that I want to be working alongside, and giving that flexibility?
The mission's kind of an interesting thing, right? It's evolved over time. And one of the things that I realized on this whole journey is like struggling with being able to speak in the voice of the customer. A classic problem is they always tell you what we're doing or what are we doing instead of like how we can help you, or what's in it for you. Our mission has changed significantly, and we changed it a couple of years ago, and I think it's a much better fit. Our mission is to deliver $100 million in ROI for our clients, right? And I can say that mission is the best one that we've set out of maybe 2 or 3 in our 10-year journey. And it aligns everybody to focus on like the outcome that we're looking for and what our clients are aligned for, an ROI for their investment in applying AI to their business. And it also makes us do a lot of things that are really cool internally, like build the systems to actually track that we're delivering the ROI and be able to like be accountable to it in our guarantee and all these other things that are aligned on like people feeling a passion to actually make this come alive and hit that goal, and all the things we need to do to make that come to life.
One of the things that we've talked about is you also mentioned, I think even through what you're describing, being a leader in a space like that and trying to be a visionary leader, trying to be the who and not the how. So you're having a team and even maybe a mission that's structured on how to deliver. I wanted to know, like, you've described yourself as a creator personality. How do you protect that role while you're resisting like the pull to manage the day-to-day operations?
It's can be hard. It's a balancing act, right? I don't really execute any of the operations, and so I try to put people in positions where they have ownership over these areas of the business, and I try to give people guidance and direction and insight. Sometimes they don't like it. Sometimes they appreciate it. Sometimes they don't, because my goal is to put people in place where they can wholly own the things that they're doing. And then we're going to collaborate together in a leadership capacity. Like we run L10 meetings. We have a leadership meeting. Like we're working through issues together. I'm giving people direction and insights and creative ideas, but I'm not forcing them to do them. I'm trying to work with them so that they see the benefits of doing it and on their own and owning the things that they are responsible for.
So I've known some leaders that describe similar to what you just described, and there's points at which they feel that it's necessary or beneficial for them to dive a little bit deeper into the project, and they try to identify that by putting in like let's just call them triggers. So this is the key metric that you guys keep doing. We're all following the plan. When I see an indicator in this space, I'm going to dive a little bit deeper. What is the process that you take as the leader while you're trying to keep yourself kind of away from diving into the details? Sometimes you can't fully be removed from it. If you see like this ship's starting to sink, I actually have to dive in. How do you manage that in yourself and with your team?
I mean, we use a scorecard in our weekly leadership meeting. We've got a monthly financial meeting where we've got a scorecard, and then we've got, our annual and quarterly meeting pulse. So there's a lot of touch bases there. I would say there's a blend between looking at metrics and seeing where things are at, and also just a feel. I can get insight. I can get signals from working with a customer, or I can get a signal from like seeing an interaction between somebody and a customer, or some inefficient process that it just seems like we keep banging our head on the wall over and over and over again. It's like, we got to fix this, And so like sometimes people that are working in operations, they don't always see those things because they are like doing the process and the systems in operations. And like, it's hard sometimes when you're working in that space. So I'm not in that space as often. I'm more in a creative space and a visionary space and working with clients and stuff and talking to customers, going to events and stuff. So I see things differently. And I also like do a lot of research and stuff. So I'm constantly getting tuned into all of these external forces, which lets me go and like see these things in a more obvious way. And so I can bring these in as issues. And I try to do them constructively through like the processes we've already set up with EOS and our L10 meetings. We have an issue list. So I'll just add stuff to the issue list. I'll get the conversation going. And then ideally, the person that owns the follow-up or the to-do that comes out of that is the person that has the most influence over fixing it. And then we'll check in on it from time to time.
Given also the business that you're in, you're obviously in technology, you're developing solutions for your own clients. We got AI that's emerging. Lots of things are changing in that space. I'd say substantially more rapidly than ever before in history. How do you, in your space, especially given the fact that you're in a more creative space, also in a very dynamic space, how do you separate the signal from the noise and identify these are the things we're actually going to do versus everything that's possible and being pulled in any direction?
Yeah. Well, I have been a shiny object person in my life, and I've got a lot of mentorship and advisory work over the years and put into me. And focus is definitely something I work on, and I have to be very intentional about because it's very exciting. There's so many things going on, And I'm constantly studying, like I'm watching YouTube or I'm doing it myself or I'm doing it with a client. And I'm learning constantly. Um, so it can create these shiny objects, but I've tried to like narrow my focus on the things that are going to produce an ROI for our business, and then narrow that to the best opportunities that are creating ROI for our business. Um, and when I do that, like it seems to line up. And then we get into this quarterly pulse where we're setting rocks for our leadership team. And so I try to take rocks that are meaningful, rocks that I actually am going to focus on over the next 90 days and try and get them done. And I ask the same of my leadership team and the other people that are taking rocks in our business.
How do you include the rest of your team to bring you ideas in this space when you're also trying to protect? I'm only going to focus on the ones that we can all actually execute, that will bring the best ROI from our clients, but also for our business. But I also still want to be open to ideas beyond just the scope of what I'm seeing myself and letting my team. How do you create that environment so that you can get the best ideas from everybody, even the ones on the ground in your business?
Man, I wish I would say that we're awesome at that, but I feel like we have so much more to go. We're so engaged in work with clients or different initiatives, but we're getting much better at like defining things as projects and like allocating budget and time to those projects. And we want an owner for those projects. Like I don't want to be the owner of any of the projects. I want to have somebody else that is working with me that is the owner, that will be accountable to it. So I'm very intentional about trying to put people into these internal and client-facing projects that are going to be owners of them. And there's a lot of collaboration that goes on in the team. There's a lot of ideas that come out, and there's issues that come up through like our processes. But I would say like I would love for more ideas to like surface from the team. And we use like, for example, Slack. We've got some like an AI lab channel, for example, and we're constantly collaborating in that channel around things that are in AI, or our general channel or random channel, or we have other channels set up for like different initiatives. So there is ways for people to collaborate, but I'm so focused all the time on like steering that I probably could do a better job of surfacing more from our team in reality.
Well, one of the things I know, obviously, I know a little bit about your team. I'm familiar with some of the stuff you guys do. And I know that you guys are also starting to apply some of your skill sets, your mission being, I want to deliver $100 million in ROI, I guess, for our clients. And because of that, you're developing some things that are obviously super beneficial to your clients, but potentially beneficial to yourselves. And now you're starting to maybe even, I don't want to say drink your own Kool-Aid, but you're using some of your own products and your own services, if I understand correctly, and trying to like gain from that. It's such a common conversation for me to have with anybody delivering any service that they almost never take the time to apply it to themselves. So I'd be very interested. I have some of those same problems. Like what was one of the things what was a pivotal moment where you're like, we need to apply all of this, like at least some of what we're doing for our clients to ourselves and get some of that efficiency, both to test it, to make sure that it's going well, but also to benefit from it and, I guess, walk the walk.
I think it's really important. And like, I feel like our friend Mark Cleveland really set me straight on that. Because I was really focused on trying to just do the services for clients at the time. And he's like, you need to eat your own dog food. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to work on LinkedIn. And we're gonna come up with a process and a system where your leadership team and your sales team are going to get really engaged on LinkedIn. And there's a lot of resistance to that by me and others. Like, well, I don't know. A lot of like it's all the doubts, the fear, uncertainty, and doubts. And you're like, but eventually you get to the point where you're like, well, let's just try it. And you start doing it and you start realizing the benefits of it. And then we continue to refine the systems. And we worked with you and brought on some, executive assistants and got support into that process so that we could execute it on a regular basis. And then that's led us to the point where we actually have a service that we sell to clients to help them amplify their LinkedIn brands, because we've developed the systems and the AIs and the human layer and the processes to make it really consistent. And so we're kind of like, we take this and then we learn and then we see that there's value there for our clients because they're telling us that they need this kind of stuff because they want to grow. And we say, well, this is what we did. It's a lot easier to sell something that you did, and you can show them examples and show them what the benchmark is and show them your results. It's a lot easier to sell it. And then there's a lot of other examples. And I think AI has dramatically changed our ability to actually develop our own custom software, because before I'd have to bring an entire team of people together, designers, developers, DevOps people, and we'd have to go through this process of like designing an application and building it. And now, like, it's amazing what I can do with AI in a couple of days. I can build a very sophisticated application that would have taken me 6 months to do before in a couple of days. And so, like, if that's possible, then like the cost of building custom software that actually like meets your specific needs is within reach of almost everybody. And the skills are there too, because you don't have to be a developer to be able to build a functional application using AI. Now, if you are a developer or are a designer, there's massive advantages and you can build something even greater. But but there's so much that we're doing right now with custom software and data that's our own data. And we started making those decisions a few years ago. Like we started building a data warehouse because we had all these disparate systems and we needed to bring data together. We needed to report on it. And then we started building applications on top of it. And then we started building other databases. Now we started building like second brain AI systems on top of it. And it's just like, now we can start automating things that we used to have employees to do and things that employees didn't like to do, like detailed research on things or putting together briefs or putting together account plans and all these other things. Like we can drive all of that now through AI automation and just using all the data that we've already got in transcripts and in all the SOWs and the case studies and all the project artifacts and the GitHubs and all that stuff. It's just unbelievable. And so like we're doing it all ourselves too, spending our money, putting our money where our mouth is. And then we're selling it to clients and we're showing them what we did. And then we go like help their businesses significantly grow and take advantage of all of the learnings and the products that we're able to develop out of that.
Yeah, and I mean, you'd mentioned getting through the fear, uncertainty, and doubt of using your own products and trying to bring some of this stuff in house. And I also know that you guys have been developing well before AI was out there. You were developing team. You had your own like specific kind of services you were trying to offer, and then AI came into the picture, which within the last 4 years or so. And I was curious when AI came in and you guys had already had a kind of a model of how you're providing services in a technology world before AI. How did you lead your team through some of the fear and uncertainty of that emergence and of what I know everybody's thinking like, oh, well, I mean, just like you said, there's people that don't have to have the same technical background to be able to produce, but you've also come on the other side of that and it's like, well, if you do have this technology background, if you have already started building all of these technologies and services and capabilities on top of each other, you're going to be able to deliver significantly more than somebody who could just put a prompt into AI. So how did you help your team through that emotional struggle, I would say, that you probably guys went through?
There's kind of multiple forces that come into play. So yes, I've been building custom software systems for 27 years now. I was doing it when I was a kid. Like I went to school to learn how to do this. I went into a consulting company, worked for multiple consulting companies, built so many systems for clients. I built my own systems. So like I've been living in this space for a long time. So Augusto was really a digital product development company in its beginnings. And so people would hire us to build custom software systems for them and help them get products in front of customers that were these digital experiences. And then it's evolved now where like the ability to do automation has significantly increased and the ability to develop these agents to take advantage of these AI systems is amazing. So like I recognized the potential of it. I think everybody's like aha moment was when ChatGPT was released, right? So they started realizing like, oh my gosh, this thing is nuts. And then it's just evolved so quickly. When I started realizing what was happening, our business in general was like slowing. It was slowing because like there was this uncertainty and doubt around what was AI going to do and how are people going to take advantage of AI. So people weren't investing in the development of these custom applications the way they were before, right? They were more cautious. So I had like a choice. I'm like, I can continue to struggle against the wave of AI, or I can figure out like how to go all in on it. And I was the first in our company to do it, right? Like I got to the point where I got myself educated and I started to like see the vision of what AI is really going to do to our world and what it is already doing to our world. And it's just undeniable. There's no other choice. Like if you want to live in this technology space, like we better be all in on AI because there's not a choice. And it's a ton of fun too, because it's like all the stuff that we didn't like to do in the past, like spend hours and hours writing lines of code. Like we can just tell what we want the app to do, and the AI writes the code for us. So it's like same thing for designers. Like they complain about living in Figma and having to do all this production work. Well, now you don't have to. You can just tell the AI what you want it to look like, and when you get to the point where you actually get more AI native, you realize like how much more productive you can be and what the changes are. So that was like the genesis of like what got me to the point to make the decision to go all in and to pivot our business and focus on AI a few years ago. And that was a good choice, but it's taken a long time. And there's people who have left our team who were like great people on the team that didn't want to go that direction. There's other people that have struggled with it. Like it's still like scary and they're not sure. But at this point, there's also some people on our team that are just like all in, and it's so fun to watch what they can produce. And there's we're attracting all these other people that are super talented to work with us in this space, and really interesting clients. Like our client mix changed too. Like we were doing work with much bigger enterprise clients, and now we're doing more work with mid-market, which is a lot of fun because you get to work with like the CEOs and the executive teams of those companies instead of working with their VPs or their directors, right? In a huge company. It's been like a lot of like learning, but the the thing I would recommend is you have to try it. You just have to do it. Like if you see this as your path, like you have to start now. You have to work on the path of becoming more AI native in your thinking and in your doing, and you need to lead by example, and you'll see the benefits. And not everyone's going to come along with you, and other people are going to come much slower than you. But in general, I feel like the team at Augusto has made significant strides and is growing very quickly right now in terms of their AI native capabilities. But it was not an easy process, and it was led by me saying we need to do this, and led by example by doing it.
So I guess I was going to ask like a little bit about what that change management looked like. And from what you're saying, it sounds like it started with you investing in yourself, being the first maybe adopter, really diving in, while the team's kind of trying to manage business as usual, and you're trying to pull them along into what's going to happen anyway.
Mm-hmm. Well, the first thing I tried to do is figure out what I could sell, right? So we started building engagement models, and I was studying like Russell Brunson and ClickFunnels model and the idea of frameworks. And so one of the first things we focused on was, how do we build a repeatable service model for delivering our services? And so we came up with the digital pace framework. And it's a 3-step framework. It's quick wins. Sorry, I'm like ahead of myself. It's rumble, quick wins, accelerate. Rumble, quick wins, accelerate. And so we got to the point where everybody in our company knows what the digital pace framework is, and they could say rumble, quick wins, accelerate, right? And when we go out and we sell, we're selling our framework. This is how we work. We do rumble, quick win, accelerate. And a rumble is basically a workshop, right? Like there's a pre and a post process. We can put a couple workshops together into a rumble, but it's a really organized, facilitated set of workshops that help your team get aligned and focused on quick wins. Because then once you get focused on a quick win, and you actually can see like, what's a quick win? Well, a quick win is a super high impact AI focused project with rapid time to delivery, right? So and we grade those and we score those, and we get to a point where we can identify like, here's the 2 or 3 quick wins we should focus on next. And then we go work on that and we deliver that. And that creates like a trust that creates like, wow, we're building momentum. We're actually delivering something. We're getting value from it. Like we like these people. They seem to have our best interests in mind. And then that leads us into these partnership engagements where we get into these long-term engagements with clients where we become I like to say, a beloved extension of their team. And we work hand in hand with them, and we get multiple projects going at once, and we deliver a lot of value. And then we start tracking all of it and measuring what our impacts are and our ROI, and it creates a virtuous cycle for everybody.
So I guess I wanted to ask you a little bit about, like, obviously you're leading a team, you're leading yourself, trying to kind of educate yourself through changes that are happening in the industry. You're also, if I understand correctly, leading clients through these processes. And I was going to ask you, what is change management for a client who maybe is trying to partner with you because they recognize their own needs are not being met internally, and they're trying to grow their company in a way that's outside of their capabilities. if it's outside of their capabilities, it probably means it's a little bit outside their understanding. How do you help them through a process, or is what you're telling me how you help them through that process? You
I'm
use
telling you
this.
what we're doing is how we're helping them through the process, because our typical customer is someone who's a change maker, someone who sees it, right? They're like, I would say like a typical phrase from a CEO would be, I see this AI thing and I see how powerful it is. And I was playing with it the last couple months and like, I'm just like blown away. And if my competitors see the same thing I see, like, and they're getting focused on it, we're gonna be left in the dust. And so that's like a common sentiment, right? So there's someone that knows that change needs to happen in the organization. And they're frustrated that their team doesn't see it the same way they see it. And they need help because they recognize that the talent on their team, they've got good talent, and in some cases they're missing talent, but they've got like a core that they trust and that they're working with. But they're like we were talking about earlier, they're focused on operations, they're focused on the day-to-day things that have to happen to run the business. And the visionary person or the transformative person is frustrated that they don't see how big this opportunity is. And so they need people like us to help like bring the team along, right? And to help like educate the team and to help like align the team with them and help get them running in the same direction, and then be an extension of their team and help them get this stuff done over time. And it compounds on itself over time. But it's hard for an organization to do it alone. There was an MIT survey that came out like last year that said like 30% of the projects that are AI projects that start for companies like fail internally, and 60% of them or more are succeeding if you use an external partner, because it's hard to change, and you can have other people like us be the ones to help facilitate that change.
Have you experienced maybe the other side of, let's just say, the wave of AI coming through, where there's my experience, for example, is I've seen people both overestimate what it can do and underestimate what it can do. I think it's because we're still kind of learning as its like capabilities are growing. But have you seen the kind of experience on the other side where people have had maybe higher expectations? They got introduced to some capabilities maybe from people they already knew, people internally. And you were mentioning like some of these projects fail, right? So their experience is, well, AI, like they say, can do all these things, but I just had a sloppy experience, and it doesn't feel like it's worth the hype. And then you're coming along with a much greater understanding of what it's capable of, and you have to kind of get them past that initial bad taste they have in their mouth. Is that something you experience with your own clients?
Totally. Yeah, there's a change management. There's a overcoming these objections and stuff. Like, I would say most people are vastly underestimating what's possible with AI at this stage. Vastly underestimating, and the reason is because they don't understand it, and they haven't done it, and they haven't been through some of the ups and downs you have to go through to actually see and understand how you can take most advantage of it. I think it's going to continue to accelerate. And I think that like it's an exponential curve. So like the people that are doing it and learning and going through this journey are going to be the ones that are going to compound, and the others are going to be staying flat. And so that's just the reality. I mean, you can go watch moonshots on YouTube and you can hear that every single day. And so like it's real though. And so like a lot of times, like I think people want to do all this stuff themselves when they start, because they want to learn and they're like experimenting and they're trying to see what's possible and stuff. But you'll get to a point where, you might have some bad experiences, or you hit the limits of like what your understanding of it is. And that's the time to call somebody like us, because we can run right alongside you and just accelerate you. And because we get to see it across all kinds of different clients and different domains, and we're doing it ourselves. And so it's like we're going through the learning curve faster than you're going through the learning curve,
Right. I'm curious. So obviously, like clients will come to you. Maybe you said that they're going to have gone through the process of maybe experiencing a little bit over the past couple of months of what could be possible with AI. Maybe they'll have some ideas, and then they get to go through this digital framework with you. Without maybe sharing who the client is exactly, can you tell me like what was one of the bigger surprises you had when going through this digital framework with a company? Like what came out of it that was a surprise to you even?
Right. Well, a lot of times, we charge a fee for a Rumble, right? Like our entry fee is like $7,500 because it takes time to get organized and facilitate a really good workshop. And, so like, it's not that much, right? In the reality of things, but it's enough where people have to stop and think like, do I want to spend, I got to get this team aligned. I got to spend this money. I got to justify this budget. It's always like there's all these hurdles to get to the Rumble, and justification. Is it worth it? Are we going to get the benefit out of it? Everybody that comes out of it is like, oh my gosh, like we have a much better understanding of this, and we have a much better understanding of where our highest value focus should be on it. And we don't need to try to do everything at once and boil the ocean. Like, let's just focus on one or two things, and like, we'll build on it. And that approach is a focus approach, right? It's like, we want to help get you focused, because a lot of times we'll work with clients and they have 50 ideas, or they're going off and they're scattered into all these different directions, trying all these different things. And like, I know, because I've lived this, that doesn't work. If we don't focus, like, you don't like succeed. And so like, our strategy is to like facilitate the process of getting people focused and rowing in the same directions. That's the Rumble. And then you've identified the quick wins. And then the quick wins give you a language and a focus around what are we actually trying to achieve? Because like, a lot of people, like, they want to make a quick win way bigger than it should be. And a quick win is about like quick and a win, So it's like, let's get quick wins, and then we can build into the more strategic bets. And so that process leads people through this evolution and this education and this like seeing it and doing it, that like makes your success success rate much higher. And you're going to build up to the things that are the big bets that you're going to get from it, but it's going to compound over time. Before, I think a lot of people, like, they get so scattered that they have too many ideas, or they want to do too much at once, and then they don't get anything done,
Right. So you're going for it's almost like the sustainable short wins to kind of build the momentum to get to that bigger win that they kind of probably are coming in with right away, saying, this is the thing I want done now.
Well, sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they have so many ideas, they don't know where to start. Sometimes people have something real specific, but I would say that's more rare than people like have too many ideas, because you start working with the team and everyone's got different ideas, different opinions, different levels of AI education and experience and perceptions. So there ends up being a lot of noise. And so the job is to like cut through the noise, find the signal, get focused on it, and then deliver it, and then build the momentum and build the trust amongst your organization internally and us, and succeed.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things that we're starting to, as we're coming towards the end of this, that I really wanted to cover with you. One of the things in the multiple conversations I've had with you, you have what I understand to be a pretty big list of books that you're reading kind of all the time, and that you've already read. So while I normally ask what you're reading now, and I'm still interested, I actually want to maybe take it in a slightly different direction with you and ask you, what is something that you're doing to try to, like, a source of news, a source of like good information that you believe is actually a credible source of information, where you try to kind of stay on top of AI for yourself and technology for yourself? Because there's so much out there.
Yeah, I feel like my biggest source of education these days is YouTube. And then it's YouTube and then try it. YouTube and then try it, right? Because there's a few people, like, if you want to go big vision, I love listening to Moonshots, right? Peter Diamandis and his team. Like, it's super cool to hear vision like that and connect it to like, oh my gosh, I think they're right. And so you that gives you like a frame of like the future and now too, but it's definitely strategy. And then there's a lot of really cool practitioners out there that are doing really cool applied AI work. And I built up a subscription list to those guys, and I'm watching them, and then I see my clients watching them, and then it's almost like we're talking about episodes of TV. Like, oh, did you see that episode of Nate Herc or whatever? There's so many really good ones right now.
Survivor AI edition, where you guys are geeking out.
And it's just like, and you can stay right on the cutting edge of all the releases that are coming out of the frontier labs, and it can be a little overwhelming sometimes, but that's where I live right now. And then I try to like filter that into like practical things that I can apply to our business and that we can bring to our clients. So yeah, I would say YouTube is definitely probably my highest source of relevant AI education, and then doing it, right? Like I've got OpenClaw, I've got Claude, and then I've also told my team to focus. Like we said, this quarter, our focus is going to be on Claude and OpenClaw, like, because I think there's so many amazing tools out there, and I could go focus on Perplexity right now, or I could go back and focus on ChatGPT again. But like those two, I think are the highest value things that I see the biggest potential on. So I'm just going to focus there right now until it's time not to focus there.
Yeah. And okay, so that's obviously with the buzz of technology and AI, but when it comes to for personal and professional development, anything that you're reading right now that kind of fits that you're really doing some diving into?
My wife and I are joining this Keller Williams wealth program. She's a realtor and doing pretty good. And so we decided to invest in ourselves by getting more educated. And they're having us read the cash flow quadrant again. If you've read Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad, cash flow quadrant's really good. And I think it's a really good way to frame where you're at right now in your journey. I was an employee for a long time, 15, 17 years. And I skipped the S quadrant and I went to the B quadrant, and I'm working on the I quadrant. And so it's really cool to hear it reframed again now that I'm like a few years past when I read that book and a lot more experiences. There's a lot of good value in that book, I think.
That's good to know. I've never really let myself dive back into a book I've already read. I always feel like, there's so many out there, I'm just missing out. But I like to hear from people who loved a book so much or felt like they could get more out of it, go back and reread it. So that's good to know that was one of those books for you. And the last thing I like to ask guests before we wrap up is, if you had an opportunity, maybe just 60 seconds, then you could go back in time, say like your early 20s, and you could only give yourself one piece of advice because 60 seconds is all you have, what would that piece of advice be and why?
I'd say read more books and be an investor much earlier. Like, don't be afraid to fail. That's part of the process of learning.
That's great. And be an investor in yourself, be an actual investor in the stock market. What do you mean by being an investor?
All of it. Try to house hack, buy a duplex right when you get out of school or right when you're in school. Start figuring out how to invest your money and compound it early. And definitely invest in yourself. Like, I mean, I remember I used to be afraid to like pay for training because it'd be like $100 or something, And it's like, I'm spending $100 on training like every week right now. The most successful people that I know have spent a ton of money on themselves to get educated, and they don't even think twice about it. So like, don't be afraid to spend money on like educating yourself. Like, it's worth the investment, and it'll make your life a lot better.
I think that's really good advice. Thank you so much, Brian. Before we go, people that are listening that might want to know how they can learn more about what Augusto is doing, where would you have them go? What would you want them to pay attention to that's happening now?
Our blog on Augusto.digital is like getting new content all the time. So I think we continue to dial it in. It's a good source of content. I would say our blog's a great place. Our LinkedIn page, follow us on LinkedIn, follow me on LinkedIn. And there's contact forms on all of those things. If you ever want to get in touch or you want us to evaluate something in your business, that's a great place to make a connection.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Brian. It's been great chatting with you and looking forward to talking to you again.
Thanks, David. Appreciate you having me on.
Hey, thanks for listening to this episode of Lead Smarter. And thank you to the partners and sponsors who believe in our mission to evolve ourselves to elevate others. Speaking of elevating others, if you liked this episode, please be sure to like, follow, subscribe, and share. It would mean a lot to me and the team that works so hard behind the scenes so we can all learn together. And of course, thank you to the expert guests who kindly join us as generous guides on our journey to lead smarter.